Hello, everyone. I'm Marco Bassi, engineer manager for the platform group at Spendesk. I will be your host for this session where I'm going to talk through how you can scale up basically your company with the use of APIs. Today, I'm going to share with you a little bit about what have been the challenges, what went well, what didn't go right, what were the steps that we took in Spendesk for growing as a business. Also, I'll be share a bit some insights and some of the tools that we have been using so to make things a bit more concrete. But before that, let me give you a very brief context. So crash course about Spendesk. We are a spend management company. We handle anything related to payment, authorization, accounting, financing for a company. We help a company manage their spending, and we are active all around Europe with thousands of customers, and we have been growing a lot as a company since we were founded 7 years ago. And yes, we have been growing a lot, and APIs have been helping us in growing and going us through this journey. With my Mac, there was a nice animation here with the stuff, so apologies if it's not that fancy anymore, but you get the point. So today, I will share with you a bit how you can transition from an environment where your company at a startup phase is laser focused on delivering things only for your own applications, whether there is mobile or web. You go with an API that is built only for those. So two engineers talking each other, poking each other's shoulders for finding the right solution. And with probably known to very limited developer experience. At the end of the day, your colleague is right there next to you, and they will give you all the answers that you need. But now let's fast forward a few years down the line, your company is growing and you are reaching the point of a scale up. And in that case, you realize that, well, your customers are not anymore only your customers. You have partners as well who are using your APIs. And also, you realize that some of those API users are actually your colleagues. And I will talk more about this later on in the talk. You are also gonna need to start building developer experience for externals and internals. You will have to think about how do I make sure that my APIs are easy to use for customers, partners, and internals. So what are some of the challenges that you may face within this journey? First of all, when you are transitioning from a startup to scale up and you are using your APIs in this transitioning, you really need to think about how the mindset of the whole company is changing. Because if at the beginning everybody is rushing up in delivering things and putting things out of the door, now you have to start to think about how you collaborate together in delivering a great product that is good for your own web and mobile applications, once again, but also for what others will do with your own APIs. And you will have to think about the customer value, for instance. Earlier, your customer value was what your product does. Tomorrow, what your partners are gonna do with your APIs. You probably are gonna start with a product, with a technical product that is, yes, well established, but still rooted down to the start of the company. And you are building something new that is evolving and you need to maintain for others to use. You are gonna balance it out well with making sure that existing product still can work with what the others are gonna do with it. And as I was mentioning before, you need a bit of alignment throughout the company. You want to make sure that everybody is okay with this new way of operating, building not anymore for your product only, but also for what others will do. The next step, which is the Spendesk for Developers portal. Actually, we have here in the audience Ryan, who has been my partner in this journey in making sure this goes live. But everything that I'm talking about today brought us to this product out there, which you can reach out after this talk. I want your attention for the next few minutes. So what are the few steps for success that brought us there? First of all, if you were to embark this journey in opening a public API for your partners out there, I would strongly encourage you to start with a small team. Don't think that you need such a large organization to make sure that your public API can get out of the door. Focus on having a very small team, like 3-4 engineers, 1 PM, laser focused on very few use cases that you think are critical. Think about what your business does, think about what you want your partners to build, focus on those few use cases and have your team delivering those in no time. Don't reinvent the wheel. Think about what has been built so far, your existing architecture, your existing tech, and build next to it. If you have to leverage the existing architecture, introduce an interface layer in between, but really don't think of building public API as something that you have to build from scratch. And following up with the previous talk, gather customer feedback. We really need to get that information from the people who eventually is going to use it. So do reach out to your alpha, beta, GA customers. Those are important and very valuable feedback for you to use. Don't fall in the traps that were shared earlier, but definitely make sure that you reach out to them and you gather their insights. I've been stressing out the importance of company alignment, and I think it's important to highlight that you might want to build a good organization with it, and you want to make sure that the whole organization is onboarded. Therefore, you want to make easy for others within your company to build for such an API. If earlier you had maybe in your organization different teams building different products for mobile and web, that nice button in the app, why don't you want to do the same for the public API? So if you want to do the same, you need your colleagues to be there, ready to build their stuff, not only for the nice button in the app, but also for the API. And you really, really need to communicate, and over-communicate. Guidelines are never enough. Presentations are never enough. Examples are never enough. You need everybody to be aligned on that. Almost you need to annoy them with your talks, but really go on tour with your idea. Make sure that your colleagues are onboarded. They know the benefits of getting into this journey with you. And for sure, foster adoption. Once again, both internally and externally. You want to make sure that, yes, your partners out there are building on top of your APIs, but also internally, your colleagues are adopting the tools that you have been building. I promised to all of you that I would have shared some of the tools and tech that we have been using. Please appreciate how Spendesk is a heavily technical company. We use Node as the main environment for our runtime. So we kept on using that for the public API. We have been using Kubernetes as well as an orchestrator. We kept on using that. We introduced some changes here and there. For instance, we introduced Fastify. For those of you who don't know Fastify, it exposes endpoints and makes it easy to handle all that fancy middleware like authorization and so on. I don't know how many tech people is there in the audience over here, but if you were used to the Node environment, please don't use Express anymore. Go with Fastify or Koa. Really, it's a call for help. And we are also adopting a Platformatic client. It's a pretty new tool, but this makes it very easy for us to make services communicate with each other, and making sure that the contracts that we have between services are respected, and those are automated as well. On a more product layer, we have been writing our specs through Stoplight, and those API specs that are reviewed and used for the implementation as well are then exposed through readme.com. Developer.spendesk.com that you saw earlier is actually README, and Postman for exposing our collection to other developers. From a very high level, the architecture of the public API is nothing fancy. At the end of the day, you have your consumers out there reaching out to your public API layer, and all the magic happens internally into the internal services that runs in Kubernetes. Let me give you some final takeaways in terms of benefits that introducing a public API within a scale-up company is giving to you. First of all, tech. If you are a growing company, it's very likely that you are struggling in evolving your tech stack. It's likely that you have started with something and you're rushing up behind things and you kind of feel like you don't have the time to innovate, to introduce new technologies. Matter of fact, this applies also to enterprises. How many enterprises out there are also struggling in evolving their technical stack because they have been close to other things for a very long time? While instead, if you think about starting exposing public API, then you get a chance to say, well, maybe now I can introduce something new. And this has been the case for us. Earlier, you saw that I was showing to you Node 20 being introduced. Once again, I don't know how technical you are, but Node 20 became long-term supported just a month ago. And we say, okay, this is the opportunity for us for testing something brand new. And with that, we introduced the native test suite that is replacing pretty much the industry standard that is Jest, moving from a few seconds for running our testing pipeline to a few milliseconds. Brilliant, isn't it? But also, think about how the public API is helping you in improving your processes and your way of collaborating as a company. You need to make sure that your company is aligned, right? You need to make sure that everybody is onboarded with delivering a public API out there. Fine, let's take this as an opportunity to have everyone together agreeing on how we operate as a company, how we make use of contracts, for instance, to make sure that every part of the application that you are building is respecting those contracts, and that others can use those contracts to make sure they can deliver even more things. And share knowledge, inspire others. We have been using Node 20 native test runner. Now we have all the other teams in the company who really want to move to that because, oh, come on, that is super fast. That's the type of feeling that you want to get when embarking in such a journey. And finally, since you are now exposing your product to the wild, you have to rethink about how your product works and what are your product flows. How is my customer using my product through my app, but also how are they going to use it through others' app? All of this, once again, is resulting in developer.spendesk.com, Spendesk for developers. It has been a pleasure sharing this with all of you, and I hope I could either inspire or share some good insights that you can take home. And I'll be happy to answer any question you might have later on. So yeah, have a good one.